Gavel down. Gavel down. Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to hear we got some energy going, Hank. I appreciate that. Back in 2006 or so, I was going to an event with my kids who were young at the time, and I said to them, you got to be very energetic because we Republicans don't celebrate well. So glad to see the energy, glad to see the excitement. Thank you all for coming out. So at this time, I'd like to call the 2015 Organization Convention to order. I love those things. Carly Fiorina is running for president on a demonstrated track record of delivering the kind of transformational change within bureaucracies and within industries we need to get our country and our economy back on track. Carly started out as a secretary for a small real estate business. She typed, filed paperwork, and answered the phone. Eventually, she would become a leader in technology, business, and charity. In 1999, Hewlett-Packard recognized the tremendous challenges facing their company and asked Carly to be their new chief executive. And as CEO of HP, she was the first woman to lead a Fortune 50 business. And as importantly, since leaving HP, Carly is focused on giving back. She has served in a large number of advisory and public policy making roles and positions for national and state governments, including as chairman of the advisory board for the CIA. She has also led a number of charities and nonprofits, serving as the chairman of the American Conservative Union Foundation, which annually hosts CPAC. Anybody here go to CPAC? Come on, hands up, there we go. The chairman of the world's largest product philanthropy organization and the chairman of the Christian faith-based organization that helps lift millions out of poverty worldwide. Carly is a conservative because she knows conservative principles work better to unlock the potential in others. And that the only way to reimagine our government is to reimagine who is leading it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, Carly Fiorina.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Wow, you guys have a lot of spirit for early in the morning. It's impressive. It's impressive. And I have to tell you, my husband Frank, who's here in the room somewhere, we just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary, but Frank is here somewhere. And we got up this morning at about 4 o'clock to come up here and be here on time. And I think because it was so early, I left my watch, my wedding ring, my earrings on the bedstand table. So you know how strange you feel when you've left something like that behind? In any event, glad he's here to prove I'm actually married. You know, since I declared my candidacy 3 weeks ago, just about 3 weeks ago, I've answered maybe close to 500 on-the-record questions now. And Hillary Clinton has answered maybe 20 since April 12th. That's probably a generous estimate. You may have known that this past week, on Wednesday, I had a long-planned trip to South Carolina. And it turned out Hillary Clinton was in South Carolina, the same city, on the same day, in fact, right across the street from where I was. And so I held a little press conference and asked questions of Hillary Clinton. Why is it that we shouldn't be concerned that your family foundation has taken tens of millions of dollars for foreign governments while you were serving as Secretary of State, just as one example? And one of the things that I've gotten a lot of from the media is the question, basically, of whether I'm being critical of Hillary Clinton because I'm a woman or because she's a woman. It has nothing to do with the fact that either one of us are women. It has to do with this fact. 82% of the American people now believe that we have a professional political class that is more focused on preserving its power and privilege than it is on doing the people's work. And Bill and Hillary Clinton are the personification of the professional political class. And it is also true that Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said that the position of president is preeminently a position of moral leadership. And so moral leadership requires trustworthiness and transparency and a track record of leadership. When I was a little girl, my mother said to me one Sunday morning, I was about 8 years old, she looked at me and she said, "What you are is God's gift to you. What you make of yourself is your gift to God." And I have learned in the course of my life, in business, in philanthropy, in government, that everyone has God-given gifts. Most people have far more potential than they realize. Human potential is the only limitless resource we have, and it is the only resource we need to solve every problem and to capitalize on every opportunity. But so often, people's potential is not tapped. I also know that my story, a young woman who starts out in a 9-person real estate firm, typing and filing, and later goes on to become the chief executive officer of the largest technology company in the world and has the privilege of advising secretaries of defense and state and CIA and Homeland Security and runs for president. My story is only possible in the United States of America. And it's possible here because our founders knew what my mother taught me. Our founders knew that everyone has God-given gifts. And so they founded a nation on a visionary idea. It was radical at the time. A visionary idea that here everyone has the right to fulfill their potential. That is what they meant when they said the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they said the right to fulfill your potential, to find and use your God-given gifts. That right comes from God and cannot be taken away by man or government. And so here in this country, more things have been more possible for more people from more places than anywhere else on the face of the planet or in human history. That is why our country is unique and exceptional, because here people have the right to fulfill their potential. And yet, why is it that 82% of the American people believe that there is a professional political class that is focused more on their own privilege and power than they are on doing the people's business? Why is it that I feel when I travel all across this country a sense of deep disquiet? Disquiet that is not partisan, it is not political. It crosses generations, it crosses ethnic groups. Men and women share it. And it is a disquiet, I think, that stems not just from the disconnect they feel between their government and their political process and themselves and their lives. It is a disquiet, I think, that comes from a fear that we are losing something. I think what people fear we're losing is the sense of limitless possibility that has always defined this nation. We always knew if something were worth doing, we would do it. If something were hard to do, even better, we would figure out how to do it. We knew that our lives were filled with possibilities, and we trusted that our children and our grandchildren's lives were filled with even greater possibilities. And I am running for president in no small measure because I believe we are at a pivotal time when a different kind of leadership is required, but also because I worry that our 2 young granddaughters will not have the same possibilities in their lives that we have had in ours. People's sense of disquiet and disconnect is founded. You know, if you look at some of the data, we are tangling people's lives up in webs of dependence. Through the charitable work that I have done in this nation, I know that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, has the capacity to live a life of dignity and purpose and meaning, but we do not encourage people to do so. We tangle them up in these webs of dependence. We do not incent or reward them to move forward in their lives. We ask them to fall back. We now have a government that has become literally so big, so powerful, so costly, so complicated, so inept, and unfortunately in too many cases so corrupt. The weight of the government of this nation is literally crushing the potential of the people of this nation. That is not hyperbole, it is fact. We are now destroying more businesses than we are creating for the first time in U.S. history. People can't find the jobs they want, or they've given up looking altogether. And the truth is this: when a bureaucracy becomes so big, so powerful, so costly, so complex, guess what? Only the big, the powerful, the wealthy, and the well-connected can handle it. And so the small and the powerless get crushed. That's why when we pass something like Dodd-Frank, 10 banks too big to fail become 5 banks too big to fail, and 3,000 community banks go out of business. I ran a $90 billion business as a chief executive. I took Hewlett-Packard, we as a team took Hewlett-Packard from $44 billion to almost $90 billion in a 6-year period during the worst technology recession in 25 years. If I didn't like the rules and the regs in Washington, D.C., we could handle it. We could hire accountants and lawyers and lobbyists. The 9-person real estate firm I started out in, they can't handle it. And so they're going out of business literally. And that matters because most people in this country start the way I started. Or they start the way my husband Frank started. He started out as a tow truck driver in a family-owned auto body shop in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You see, it's the small businesses, the family-owned businesses that create 2/3 of the new jobs in this country. They employ half the people. So when we're not growing that engine of entrepreneurship and innovation, the small and family-owned business, and we're not growing it today, we're crushing it, then we are not growing opportunities and possibilities. We now have a 70,000-page tax code. So just in the last 2 weeks alone, I have had so many people come up to me, maybe they're family-owned business owners, and they say, you know what, I couldn't file my taxes on time because I don't understand them anymore, and my accountant doesn't understand them, and no one at the IRS would answer my phone call. We now know, by the way, that the IRS can't protect our personal information either. Talk about ineptitude. And yet, every government agency has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger for 50 years under Republicans and Democrats alike. And if there is one glaring example of the need for fundamental transformation of our federal government, it is the Veterans Administration. It is a stain on our nation's honor that we cannot serve those who have served us, and the Veterans Administration has been an embarrassment and a problem for decades. And nothing really has changed. When the scandal of the wait times in Arizona hit, politicians in Washington responded to the pressure of citizenry. They passed, as you'll recall, in 3 short weeks, a bipartisan bill that would allow the VA to fire the top 400 senior executives if they weren't doing their jobs. By the way, it's not a bad idea. I think we should do it all throughout the federal government. It's ridiculous that you can sit in a federal government job and watch pornography all day long and earn the same pay, pension, and benefits as somebody trying to do a good job. We know that's true. We get Inspector General reports about it all the time, and yet nothing changes. We get reports detailing hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, waste, abuse, and in some cases corruption every single year. Nothing happens. If we want to get our debt and our deficits under control, we have to grow our economy and reduce government spending. And if we want to take our government back, we not only have to reduce federal spending, I mean really reduce it, we have to fundamentally transform the federal government so that it remembers who it is there to serve and who is paying for it every day. And this, ladies and gentlemen, takes leadership. I am reminded of the difference between management and leadership. Managers are people who do the best they can within the status quo. Managers do the best they can within the existing system. There are managers in business, there are managers in politics. But it is not a leader's job to manage the status quo. It is a leader's job to challenge the status quo. After 6 years at Hewlett-Packard, in which we doubled the size of the business, quadrupled the growth rate, tripled innovation to 11 patents a day, quadrupled cash flow, went from lagging behind in every market category, in every product segment, to leading in every single one of those same things. After 6 years of doing that, I got fired in a boardroom brawl that ensued over 2 weeks, demonstrating that when you lead and you challenge the status quo, you make enemies. Sometimes that is what is required, but it is why so few people lead and so many people settle for management. Nowhere do we need leadership more than in the world today, because the world is a very dangerous and tragic place when America is not leading. The truth is, I know more world leaders on the stage today than anyone else running, with the possible exception of Hillary Clinton, only I did not do photo ops. I have met with Vladimir Putin privately, and if you've spent any time at all with him, you would know that a gimmicky red reset button will not constrain his ambition. There are 4 very specific things we should do so that Vladimir Putin knows he faces strength and resolve on the other side. Each one of these things is totally within our control. We should rebuild the Sixth Fleet. We should rebuild the missile defense program, which Obama inexplicably pulled out of. We should conduct regular military exercises in the Baltic states, and we should arm the Ukrainians. And Vladimir Putin would get the message. Instead of having Camp David summits trying to talk our Arab allies into a very bad deal with Iran, we should be having summits with our Arab allies about what they need from us to help fight ISIS, because they know it is their fight. The Saudi Arabians no longer trust us, but they know it is their fight. King Abdullah of Jordan, a man I've known for a long time. I know the Saudi royal family as well. King Abdullah of Jordan was here in this country when the Jordanian pilot was burned alive. He was here asking us for bombs and materiel. We still have not provided it. The Kurds have been asking us to arm them for 3 years. We continue to hear from Secretary of State Clinton at one time and President Obama still that arms have to go through the central government in Baghdad. There is no central government in Baghdad anymore. There is a government that is collaborating with Iran. We need to arm the Kurds. We need to share intelligence with the Egyptians, as they have asked us to do. We need to work with the Emiratis and the Qataris. All of these things we can do, we should do. Our allies in that region know ISIS is their fight, but they will not fight unless they sense leadership and strength and resolve and support from us. And the very first day I am in the Oval Office, I will make 2 phone calls. The first one will be to Bibi Netanyahu, a man I have known a very long time, to reassure him that the United States will always stand with the state of Israel. And the second is to the supreme leader of Iran. He might not take the phone call, but he would get the message. And the message would be this: until and unless you are prepared to open every single nuclear facility to full and unfettered inspections, we will immediately, the United States of America, impose the most crushing financial sanctions we can and make it exceedingly difficult for you to move money around this planet. We can do that without anyone's permission, and we should not be confused. China and Russia have not been negotiating on our side of the table in the P5+1. All of these things I just mentioned can be done. All of these things can be done. We can solve every problem we have. We can heal every wound. But what is required is leadership and citizenship. Citizenship to re-engage in the process of government. Ours was intended to be a citizen government. It is what by, for, and of the people means. So I'll tell you something else I would do in the Oval Office. I would regularly speak to the American people, and I would ask them, please take out your smartphones. And tonight, instead of voting for American Idol or The Voice, I'd like you to vote on a couple questions. How do you feel about the fact that people can watch? Do you think it's okay that people can watch pornography all day long and earn the same pay, pension, and benefits as someone trying to do a good job? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. I know the answer. How do you feel that we can't ever fire senior executives who don't do their job? The point is, technology now gives us the opportunity to re-engage people in the process of their government and to put pressure on the political system so that we can, through leadership and citizenship, retake our government and transform this nation into what it must be. You know, I'm gonna, thank you. I'm gonna remember kind of a crazy question I got asked. You know, I get asked all these questions. Well, one of the craziest questions I got asked was on national television. I was in New Hampshire, and I was asked by a reporter on national television whether a woman's hormones prevent her from serving in the Oval Office. So ladies only, please, this is a test. Can you think of any instance in which a man's judgment has been clouded by his hormones? Anyone, including in the Oval Office. Hillary Clinton must not be president of these United States, but not because she is a woman. Hillary Clinton must not be president of these United States because she is not trustworthy and she lacks a track record of leadership. And so we must have a nominee that can win the job and can do the job. And to win the job, we're going to have a nominee on that general debate stage who will ask Hillary Clinton all these very tough questions. We will need a nominee who can take a punch and who can throw a punch. But we also need a nominee who can do the job. Because at this pivotal point, the job needs doing. And I think to do the job, we now need a leader who understands how the economy actually works, who understands how the world works and who's in the world and what our allies expect of us and our adversaries fear from us. We need someone who understands bureaucracies because our federal government has become one giant bloated bureaucracy. We need someone who understands technology because technology is a tool to transform government and to re-engage citizens in their process of their government. And yes, Mrs. Clinton, you can have more than one email account on a device. And finally, we need someone who understands leadership, that leadership is not about power, position, title. The highest calling of leadership is to unlock potential in others. And we now need a leader with a track record of executive decision-making who knows their mission is to unlock the potential of this nation. I think every day about two symbols of our democracy. And the two symbols that I think of every day represent what we must be in the 21st century. I think of Lady Liberty and Lady Justice. Picture in your mind Lady Liberty. She is tall and strong. She is clear-eyed. She is resolute. She faces outward into the world, which is the way America must always face. And she holds her torch high because she knows she is a beacon of hope in a very troubled world. And Lady Justice, she holds a sword in one hand because she is a fighter. She is a warrior for the values and the principles that have made this nation great. She holds a scale in the other hand. And she reminds us with that scale that all of us are equal in the eyes of God, and so all of us must be equal in the eyes of the law and government, powerful and powerless alike. And she wears a blindfold. And with that blindfold, she says to us, here in this nation, in the 21st century, it must be that it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your circumstances. Here, in this nation, in this time, every American's life must be filled with possibilities, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
As some of you know, I'm a runner. And so as a gift and a token of our appreciation of you taking time to come and speak to us today, and great comments. I mean, come on, great comments. There is a collection of running gear in here so that you, as you run for president, you can cover all the miles you need to cover. So thank you again.